YouTube, we back with another video, and I appreciate you guys for tuning in to another one. And I'm trying to make progress on these videos, so give me feedback, let me know. But of course, let's get right into the meat and potatoes of this option portfolio, man. I'm really trying to grow this, and I'm really trying to just document this whole journey so I can give tips and tricks along the way, and we can all learn together. So the people who's tapping in, I appreciate you. So getting right into it. Last week, we didn't really exit. We exited NVDA right here. We didn't enter any plays. We're still in these plays. So we'll talk about this NVIDIA play. So right now we're 2 for 4 on plays, but we're still up overall because you can see well the gains on the percentage gains outweigh the losses. But not every option contract price is the same, or every play you don't put the same amount into the play. But I don't necessarily want to focus on how much I'm making or how much I might have lost on the play. Percentages are relative. No matter if you put 1,000 or 100 or 100,000 in the play, these percentages are all relative to that. So right now, I want that to be the main focus and not necessarily the actual monetary. So that's why we're focusing on those percentages. So just to keep going and look at the portfolio, we're in the Apple Play still, the ANET, the Google, and the Walmart. I'll always mention it. The Robinhood is actual stocks that I was assigned when I was doing the wheel strategy. So I really want to hone in on that Robinhood play that we exited and the Walmart play because we're down at the 30% to 40% threshold. So we'll see why are we still in that play and why didn't we exit. So I guess we'll talk about that one first. We'll get it right into that Walmart play right now. So right now we're still in this Walmart play for a couple reasons. What did I say before? You always want to look for confluences. So the first thing that I can already see is that it's still holding up currently this 200-day moving average, which is this green line. Basically, the universal moving average that people look at to confirm if a stock is in an uptrend or a downtrend. This is the universal. If you ask 1,000 people who do technical analysis, the universal um, moving average indicator, just to confirm the trend at least, it's going to be that 200-day moving average. So it's still above that. And then right in this same area, we can see this major support resistance line. So we can see that it came up to this area and it rejected this area, which means it had resistance in this area. And it broke up and it had a gap right up to that area and it had an indecisive candle, but it still held it up. It pushed back down. It held up that area with bottom wicks still holding up, and then it had three white soldiers, and it had a strong movement to the upside from this same level. So now moving forward, it had all this price movement, and now we're back in that same area. So now it has a decision to make. Is it going to hold up this level again? Will it hold it up and bounce? Will it do a little bit consolidation in this area, or will it break below this area and that 200-day moving average? So even though that's Walmart is at our 30% to 40%. It's in that threshold where we might look to exit a play. It hasn't actually broke that level, or it hasn't actually broke these key levels that we would look at to pay attention to. So if it does break it, I'm more than willing to go ahead and exit that play, but I'm not gonna just chase that loss because it's at that 30%. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta kind of have a little bit of understanding of what's going on and what type of decision you were going to make about that. So I'll show you then on the flip side why I did exit the NVIDIA play. So on the video, if we just look at it, this is out at the blue line to the day that I exited when it broke that 50-day moving average. So on NVIDIA, it's similar, but it's different. So on this day, it did break down the same way, like I said, but it did not break that 30 30% threshold, but it broke it here. And so I know you're probably like, how did it break it? How did it break it here, but it didn't break it there? So when you're trading options, there's a thing called Greeks. It's four different things that make up the Greeks. The thing that we're talking about in particular is theta, which is the time decay. So when you buy an options contract, the reason you have an expiration date and the reason that when you're buying an option contract that doesn't expire until 2 years from now, and that would be more expensive to an option contract that might expire next week, is because you have more time on your side. And so that means as time goes on, your contracts loses a little value just because theta, regardless of what that option, the stock price did each day, you're going to lose a little bit of that contract value because the time expiration, the time decay. So for an example, when you're just actually buying and selling shares, say I was just actually trading NVDA, the stock, not the option contract. So say if we bought it at, let's just give an even number at the 210 because it's in that area now. Say we bought NVIDIA at 210 all the way when it's at this same price point back here. So on 427, we bought this option, we bought NVIDIA at 210. And now, 2 months later, it's at 210 again. And if you held the shares, you didn't make any money, but you also didn't lose any money. Now, the difference with options is if I was to bought my options contract here at 210, and now we're in June and it's at 210 again, I would have actually lost money because of the time decay. So each day is going to be losing a little bit of monetary value. And what just happened, but please bear with me on the technical difficulties, man. It's always something. But so now when it broke the 50-day moving average, this time it did break our threshold. And like I said, hindsight is 2020. It did bounce right back and recover and close right back above it the next day, but we didn't know that was gonna happen. Um Kevin Warsh actually had the FOMC or one of the meetings where he discussed if people are paying attention to are they going to raise interest rates or lower interest rates, and they had a hawkish people read the sentiment as hawkish from his meeting. So the market did kind of drop that day. So that was one of the factors also that um so this option play could have actually just kept going to the downside, but we don't know. We just got to go off what we see for that current day, because like I say, hindsight is 2020. If we would have knew that if he was going to do this, we could have just wrote that whole thing, but we don't know how it's going to move. We're just going to use our whatever our strategy is to the best of our ability to catch some of those runs, you know what I'm saying? So that's actually why NVIDIA is on the watch list for this week. So it's still trending to the upside. NVIDIA kind of ranges sometimes, but I think that NVIDIA can continue to move to push to the upside. We do have to worry about if it will hold up and touch this trend line another time. That will be an area to focus on. But if it can break back above that 50 and hold it up with strength and continue to the upside, and also this yellow line is another area where it had resistance at. So we're going to watch NVIDIA and see what it does this week. And one other last player that I do want to talk about is Apple. So we talked about Apple last week about confluence. Let me show you guys how confluence matters. So we got into the Apple play on this day. Like I said, I entered in the morning, so it was here when I entered it, and if you remember, we ended up being down 15% that same day on that same red candle move. But the reason I got into that Apple play was because it had a previous all-time high back here. So this was an all-time high. This is not previous all-time highs because this mountaintop is higher than these. So this is the previous all-time high. These are just lower highs than this high. So this was the previous all-time high. it bounced from that level and it came down in here. And once it got back to that all-time high area, it had an indecisive candle. It's not a strong indecisive candle, but you can see it ranged in both ways and ended up closing with a small body. And it came back and pushed up. It had a bad WDC conference call or conference meeting, and it pushed back down to the downside because people didn't like what they said about AI. So when it pushed back down to the downside, guess where it fell to? That same key level where it was previous all-time high. And so not only was that a previous all-time high, previous resistance turning into a support level, we took the fib, we put the fib on there and it fell to a fib level. And all I do for my fib is take the major swing from previous demand to supply. And now those are the major swings. And here's where you get all your support and resistance in between all this stuff. But those major swings are supply and demand. And here is support and resistance. So it fell back to that fib level and it held it up. So now we're in that, and you can see right now we're up. What are we up on the Apple? Only 1.75%. But it held up that level pretty nicely. So we're looking for Apple to just continue to continuously slowly grind. You can see it's holding up this trend. If we look at the hourly, every time it comes back down to that blue line, it continues to hold it up. So we want Apple to just keep grinding to the upside. So I appreciate you for tuning in. I feel like each week we're slowly touching on some gems that maybe will help someone that's new to the options. I also make haircut videos because I believe I like to learn things but break it down in a simple way. I'm a simple type of person. Uh, and I think that it's definitely things you need to get super into the nuts and bolts about. It's those things that you're really passionate about. I am passionate about these things, but I like to make it in a simple way. I like to make complicated things seem simple. Um, and that's how I want to win in this game. So thank you for tuning in to another video and stay posted. Let me know how you guys feel about just getting right to it, not even, talking about how the past week or the past year what's been performing. Let me know. So I appreciate you and I'll catch you on the next one.